right. Hello, everyone. I got a brand new computer, so I'm hoping that this is working okay. If for whatever reason you can't hear me or see me, send me a little chat. But anyway, I haven't done one of these in a little while. If you've not been here before, this is I call this the live Q&A, private practice office hours. It's basically a time where people can just pop in, ask questions. You put those down in the chat. I'll do my best to answer as many as I can and as detailed as I can. When I was first starting out, I found it was really hard to ask people questions in person. And so that's what I wanted to do, is kind of just provide that time for people. So I'll hang out probably for 45 minutes or so. People tend to kind of come and go throughout the chat. I also know it's kind of last minute too. But yeah, if you're here, welcome. I'm really glad you're able to stop by. Feel free to just start posting questions in the chat. I will answer them as they come through. There is often a little bit of delay. So if you ask a question, it looks like it goes through like right away on your end. I think there's like a 3 to 5 second delay. So please don't be offended. I'm not just not answering. I'm kind of dealing with the delay. With that being said, feel free to start asking questions in the chat. And if there's any silence, feel free to hang out, do your notes, just kind of be a part of the live stream here. Cool. So yeah, I will also work on things until questions come through. Okay, so yeah, begin asking questions, whatever you want. And I'll also check my email. Sometimes people send questions through there as well. And then, yeah, for those of you who have not done a lot, like logged into one of these, you just, there's a chat bar on the right. That's where you can just type your questions in. All right, welcome everyone. I see some more people joining. We're just hanging out, answering questions. So when you have questions, or just feel free to drop them directly in the chat. We'll start answering right away. And welcome. I see some more people joining as well. Feel free to just start dropping your questions in the chat. No, none have come through yet, so we're just kind of hanging out. I am using a new computer, so if you don't hear me or see me, please let me know in the chat. But it looks like some questions are starting to come through, so we'll answer those one at a time. Let's see. Here we go. Cool, you guys can see that. All right, let's see. Thanks for doing this. In terms of building a group practice, how do you pay clinicians? I know Aetna and Cigna allow for incident billing or incident to billing. So do you only hire clinicians for those? So that's a good question. In terms of building a group practice, I think when you're asking about how do you pay clinicians, I guess there's really, you can bucket this into like two categories, right? There can be the salary category where people get paid a salary. And then there's kind of that per diem hourly model. In my current practice, it's the hourly model. One thing I'm really transparent about with all the therapists I hire is that we're not a massive practice. We're not an agency or anything like that. So we don't get tons and tons of referrals. So it's really quite a slow buildup for them. In that regard, the hourly model makes the most sense for us. And then so for each hour a clinician works, they get paid the hourly rate. And then you are correct. Aetna and Cigna are currently the only two insurances that I'm aware of that allow for supervisory or incident to billing. And for those of you who don't know what incident to billing is, it's basically a method of insurance billing that would allow you to would allow an LMSW or a provisionally licensed therapist to provide a service, and then you can bill for that service either under the supervisor's MPI or the group practice MPI. To put it really simply, it allows provisionally licensed therapists to see clients, and then the clients can still use their insurance. And so, yeah, so I mean, in terms of, so the clinicians I have that are LMSWs, then when we talk to clients or whatever, it's true that they typically end up seeing clients that have Aetna or Cigna, especially because our practice takes insurance. I hope that answers your question. If not, please ask a follow-up. All right. So someone's asking about holding multi-state licenses and insurance panels. Do you need individual contracts with insurances for the various states you hold license in? This is a good question. No, I do not believe you need like a separate contract for each state. So for example, I'm licensed in both New York and New Jersey. And when I was I got contracted with Cigna. And initially I was only in New York. That was my license was only there. And then I gave them a call and I said, hey, I'm licensed in New Jersey as well. And then they had to, I don't think I had to fill anything out. I can't remember, it was a while back. But they had to do something on their end. And there was a little bit of a delay, but basically you just need to contact the insurance provider, which that sounds really simple, but contacting any insurance panel is extremely difficult. You spend hours on the phone. But basically you do want it in writing that they're okay, or that they've kind of approved you being licensed in multiple states. So simple answer, no, you don't need a separate contract. But I guess the difficulty is getting in contact with the current contract or the current insurance provider and letting them know. Cigna was actually really easy to deal with. Aetna's a little bit more difficult. And then of course the different insurers, hear different stories about how hard it is to contact them. But just give them a call. All right. So this is a good question. I actually just consulted a lawyer about this exact thing not too long ago. And what the lawyer had shared with me was that for private practices or like private group practices, there is no definite law on how often they are to be done. We do know that they do need to be done. They're mainly, I think there are state laws around it. And then there's also kind of insurance requirements and things like that. So we do need to do the treatment plans. In terms of how long, you're going to get so many different answers. And that's why I consulted the lawyer, who then also responded and said, there's no specific law around it for private practices or group practices that are private. But in our practice, we're currently doing every 6 months. I've heard people doing it every 3 months. I've heard people doing it every year. I think it also depends on how often your insurance contract wants you to do it. So you can follow up with them as well. But it's one of those things. It should be a definite answer, right? Like, I just want someone to tell me do it this way at this frequency, and that would be great. But when you ask anyone, you get 25 different responses. Extremely frustrating. I feel your pain on that one. Let's see here. All right. I am licensed in multiple states. Do I need to set up business entities in every state that I'm licensed in and pay taxes in every state? Fantastic question. And I wish there was a really simple answer to this, but there's not. So I'm going to give you the complex answer because I was just dealing with this myself. All right. So I'll do my best to be clear. I'm still learning about this whole thing myself. But so I have a business entity established in New York. Okay. I'm also licensed in New Jersey, and we see clients who are in New Jersey. I also have a staff member who lives in New Jersey. With all that being said, what you basically have to, and you have to ask an accountant. And then the accountant will sometimes tell you to ask a lawyer. But let me just share with you kind of what the accountant shared with me. They said that every state defines what it means to be doing business in their state. So for example, New Jersey has its own set of rules about what constitutes doing business in their state. And when it comes to like doing telehealth stuff, it's up to the state to decide whether or not you as the provider sitting in New York and a client sitting in New Jersey is considered doing business in the state of New Jersey. So that has to be dealt with an accountant, perhaps a lawyer. And then from there, once you decide what it means, then you can figure out, well, do I need so in New Jersey, I had to register what's called a foreign business entity, meaning I didn't establish a brand new entity, but I did register my New York entity as a foreign entity in New Jersey. Now, I messed that up. If you watched one of my videos a couple weeks ago, I established a brand new entity there by accident. So it's really confusing. And then in some states, you are going to end up paying taxes. Other states, you are not. But my advice to you today would be to go to your accountant, tell them what state you're licensed in, where the clients are sitting when you see them, and then you have to ask them, what am I doing business in that state? What's required? If you use Gusto, if you're part of a group practice and doing payroll, they also can help you out. They have some pretty good customer support. But that is how I would advise you to start. I hope I didn't confuse you more, but that one is confusing because when I spoke to the lawyer or the accountant, every single state has different rules about this. And he even said that the rules are fairly gray. They're not well defined. So hopefully that helps. And I really hope you're not more confused. Sorry if you are. Let's see. You're welcome. If you have more questions, please feel free to continue to ask. You don't have to be limited to just one. Do you know if there's any reason we couldn't provide services in the community in private practice? Can you clarify a little bit more about what you mean by services in the community in private practice? I just want to be sure I am answering your question correctly. If you could just clarify in the chat, that would be awesome. You're welcome. For those of you who are just joining, I do see some more people kind of coming and going. And sorry, I tapped the wire there, cut out for a second. I'm still here though. Feel free to just drop your questions down below. Not down below, I think it's on the side, on the right-hand side. I will go ahead and answer them. Okay, and then, here's the clarity. In schools or homes. No, I don't see why that would be an issue as a private practice providing your services in schools or at homes. No, I've never heard of any issues with that. Have you heard of any issues? Is that why you're asking, or are you just kind of curious? If you're curious, I've never heard of issues with it. But if you've heard of something different, I would love to know myself. Let's see. Medicare. Do we need to do anything about that if we never registered with them? If you are not taking Medicare, you're not registered with Medicare, you're not dealing with Medicare, there should be no reason you need to do anything in regards to Medicare. If you are, though, dealing with Medicare in some regard, like you want to take Medicare, you want to get paneled to take Medicare, then you are going to want to register. And I think that is a fairly complex process. My advice would be to hire a credentialing company to go ahead and do that. But some providers choose not to deal with Medicare or Medicaid just because of the complexities. So if you are not registered, you're not dealing with them, there should be no need to register. In my experience, I don't think you need to. Let's see. You were just curious. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so then you have your own business, your own private practice, and you have your specialties. If you specialize in working with children in school settings, or you want to do home visits, you just have to make sure you have all the right consents and paperwork and all that kind of stuff, right? So just anything standard that you would do as part of an agency, you want to make sure you have all your bases covered legally with documentation, informed consents, policies, all that kind of stuff. Great question, though. Do you do coaching to help clinicians grow? That's a great question. I do occasionally do coaching if people want that type of support. If you're interested in that, you can send me an email. My email will be down below in the description. I also try to keep things really accessible. So another thing I also host is a consultation group. It is just an online community. It's just hosted on Facebook, but it's a private community. And I'll leave a link to that down below in the description as well. And basically in that community, people can ask questions at any point, at any time, and I will respond with detailed responses personally. I review every single one that comes through. I spend time answering them. And then there's a bunch of tutorials that are not on my YouTube in there as well. Links to that will be down below in the description. All right, cool. We're catching up. We got all the questions answered so far. If there's more, please feel free. Don't be shy. Ask as many questions as you need to. For those of you just joining, welcome. Feel free to ask your questions. And when there's a little break or pause, feel free just to hang out, do some admin work, and spend some time with us. And I must say, I don't know if you guys have logged into the live stream before, but before this, I had a computer. I think it was from like 2016. Every time I used that thing to do this live stream, it sounded like it was going to light on fire, and it lagged. One time it just shut down and just didn't work. I got this new one, and it actually works really well. I'm really glad to see that this computer is not lighting on fire right now. It's just a little side note. Let's see, check the email. Okay. Okay. And then what we'll do is, I will hang out if people feel like all their questions are answered and there's not many more coming in. Give it about 5-10 minutes. And then we'll kind of go from there, but it looks like more questions are coming in, so we'll continue to hang out. I'm curious about your thoughts on how to do ethically, legally. I'm curious about your thoughts on how to ethically, legally add coaching or courses to my business. I've heard so many mixed information, for example, different websites needed. Great question. I actually spent a good amount of time researching this myself, and I actually consulted a lawyer on this. So it is true that therapy and clinical work and coaching are entirely separate services. And there's actually a lot of issues that can happen. So for example, you want to be really, really careful that you don't, they have to be two separate businesses. And also you do need, you want to speak to a lawyer, because if you do end up doing coaching, you don't necessarily want to be providing coaching services to a client you're doing therapy with. That's not good. So there's a lot of different ethics and legal issues with this. And so a lot of people just assume they can just do it, and you can't. So you do need to make sure you get all the right paperwork from an attorney who can give you the right informed consents and give you all the right kind of like the risks that are involved. But the safest way to do it is you have a therapy business and you have a coaching business. They're two totally separate entities. And you have separate, like, your current caseload as a therapist should not start moving over to coaching. And a coach cannot do any type of psychotherapy. So whatever you're doing in the coaching business cannot involve any sort of psychotherapy or clinical work. And then you have to know what's the definition of clinical work to make sure you're not messing with any gray areas here, right? So my advice to you would be, if you are going to try to do coaching and you're not consulting an attorney, separate it completely. If you want to be super sure, you want to consult the attorney and make sure you get all those forms and informed consents and things like that. Now, I'm not an attorney, obviously. I'm not giving you legal advice, but that's where I would go with it. And when I contacted the attorney, he gave me kind of some of the information that I'm sharing with you and gave me all the forms. I was going to do a little bit of coaching, like executive function coaching. I ended up putting that on hold for a while, but that's why I started to research the difference. And I think the biggest thing that he was really talking about was he was really emphasizing that a coach cannot do any clinical work. But if you're a therapist doing coaching, you have to be very careful so that you're not doing clinical work when you have the coach hat on. And then the other thing you want to be really careful about is not taking your current caseload that you're doing therapy with and kind of moving them over to a coaching kind of model. There's a lot of ethical issues there and some legal issues. Hopefully that answers your question. I know it's not the answer that everyone wants to hear. It makes you have to do more work and more consultation, but you want to do things right. And so that hopefully helps give some clarity. I'm an LLC. Should I pay myself as a W-2? This is a great question. You're going to get a lot of mixed answers about this, and there's actually not one single answer. My best advice to you would be to ask your attorney at what point is the best time to pay yourself as a W-2. I currently do not do that. I've had a group practice now for a little while. And that's per the advice of the attorney. He was telling me that there's a certain point when you have enough income where, that might be beneficial to adjust. But ask your accountant what they think about that, and go from there. But don't just assume and do it. It's kind of complex. So double check with them, and then decide. Again, I wish it was more straightforward, but it's not. I saw New Jersey requires a telehealth organization if you don't have a physical office space. Wondering how you have navigated this. This is a good question. I actually have not had to navigate this, to be honest, because I have a kind of temporary office space, hourly office space available to me in New Jersey that I can use as a location if I need to. But can you share where you heard about the telehealth organization that you're talking about? And then maybe I can look into it a little bit. And I see some people coming and going. If you're just joining, welcome. Glad to have you here. Just a space to ask questions. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We're just going through one by one. Have a lot of good questions coming in so far. We're going to check the email to see if there's anything there. I will see. When shifting from solo practice to group practice and hiring new clinicians, what are your recommendations for starting new employees as W-2 or 1099 contractors, and why? It's a great question. I've actually made a couple of videos about this. After this stream, I'll put them down below in the description. But a couple thoughts on this. The first one is the legal issue. So in some regard, depending on your model, so let's say, for example, you want to hire provisionally licensed therapists like LMSWs or MHCLPs, you don't actually have an option. At least in the state of New York, they have to be W-2. So on one hand, you want to get to know like what the state laws are in regards to provisionally, if you want to hire provisionally licensed, because that will answer your question right away. I hired LMSWs, provisionally licensed folks, no option. It's W-2. That is what it is. Although some people do try to work around that. It's not a great idea. It's not something you should be doing. But let's say you have an LCSW, and I'm talking about New York, right? In other states, it might be different, but for the most part, I think it's pretty similar. But let's say you have an LCSW, you want to decide between W-2 and 1099. Just generally speaking, the way I encourage people to kind of think about this, if you have a 1099, you're not going to have much control over kind of like how the therapist works or what their hours are. In that regard, think about a 1099 kind of like hiring a plumber, right? It's the same thing, right? So if you hire a plumber to come to your home to fix something, you don't tell the plumber how to do their job. You don't tell them what tools to bring. You don't even really tell them what hours to come, right? They give you that window. So technically a 1099 is like that. So when you hire a LCSW or therapist as a 1099, they're not technically an employee. You are contracting with them, and they're basically running their own mini private, and people don't look at it this way, but that's what it is. They're running their own mini private practice for you. Now you write up a contract and you guys agree to the terms, but you can't tell them what hours to work. You don't have any control really over kind of that. And in that sense, when you think about a bigger picture, if you're building a group practice and you want to kind of establish a culture, you want to kind of have one direct vision, you want to kind of you want to build a cohesive group practice, 1099 might not be the way to go. Right. So that's kind of how I think about it. And then W-2, you do have a lot more control. Right. You can kind of set the hours. You can set the expectations. It's just a lot more control there. Now, if you go to the monetary piece, a 1099 is not going to be as costly. That's because the contractor is paying their own taxes. You're simply just agreeing to a rate and you're paying that rate. When you hire W-2, now you've got to get payroll set up. You've got to deal with the taxes. You've got to provide certain benefits. And so then it becomes a bit more costly. So some people, based off the cost of what it is to hire, they decide to go with one or the other. What I usually hear is if people are starting to grow, they want to grow a practice and have like a lot of like a long-term vision for it, they eventually will go W-2 route. But because of cost, a lot of people start 1099. But again, if you're hiring provisionally licensed folks, you just need to know like the legal, you might not have a choice. Like I didn't, I just went straight W-2. That's a lot there. I'm going to leave videos down below with more information, but I hope that helps a little bit. I think I saw you ask another question, which we'll get to in a second. I've heard someone mention that we have to opt out of Medicare or through our NPI numbers if we do not provide that coverage. I haven't heard anything about this. I have not heard anything about that either. Yeah, I'm not sure. Where did you hear that, if you don't mind me asking? Was it another clinician? Did you read about it on Medicare's website? If you want some clarity about that, because I haven't heard that either, you might want to, there's a couple of people you can contact. You can contact a healthcare attorney. You can probably try to contact Medicare, the MPI people as well. And then you might be able to even ask a biller that question, but I have not heard of that either. So maybe even that will make you feel a little more at ease. That's good to know. This is in regard to the New Jersey virtual address or virtual location. That's good to know. I'll look into that. I believe it was created for those that were solely telehealth to pay a set fee per year to operate their practice in New Jersey. Okay, that's really helpful to know. Do you and just out of curiosity, where did you find that? Did someone tell you about it? Was it on a website? I would love to know, because sometimes we hear these things and sometimes they're like, yeah, they're totally legitimate, and other times they're just kind of like people are sharing things back and forth. Um, but yeah, if you could, I would love to know where you found out about this organization you're mentioning. When making your first clinician hire, how much would you recommend saving in advance to make this investment for private pay group practice and not but yourself in a financial crunch? Um, this is a good question. So I guess there's a couple things in mind. It's not so, yeah, so you're going to be private pay, so you're not dealing with insurance. The problem with insurance is there's a lag. So you submit claims, and then there's like this 2-week lag between getting reimbursed, which causes problems when you're trying to pay a therapist or pay your staff. But since you're private pay, there will be no lag, presumably. So when you think about how much you want to save up, you actually can do a couple simple calculations. You can kind of just think about how much it's going to cost you to get the payroll software, how much it's going to cost you to, if you're doing W-2, how much is the coverage for them. If you're doing 1099, there really is no coverage, so it's just really the cost of hiring, which might just be time, right? Doing the interview and all that kind of stuff. And then if you're providing like the tools for people, right? W-2, you're providing all the tools, the EHR and all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of calculate that. And then if you're not doing salary, but you're doing hourly, right? So basically you're paying the clinician for every hour that they work. And presumably that's when they see a client. So in that regard, you don't necessarily have to save up to pay the clinician because you're private pay. The payment will be made at the same time the clinician's seeing them, and then you pay them at the end, right? Or every 2 weeks or so. And then if you really need to think about saving up, it's really going to be for those upfront costs, which you can kind of calculate. And hopefully that helps a little bit. I think people are worried about this big crunch, but that crunch is more so for people taking insurance. And usually when there's a lot of clients already on board, if you're just starting from scratch, there's not going to be much of an issue there because you're going to be slowly building the therapist up. Okay, that's really helpful to know. And I think someone actually commented on it right here. They're in Massachusetts and had to opt out of Medicaid. So that's really good to know. I'm in New York. I have not heard of that, but I guess in Massachusetts you have to do that. And I'm always learning things new. So perhaps that is something that needs to happen. So yeah, but as far as I know, in New York, I have not had to do that. Is the new rules, are you referring to your previous post about LLCs, or are you referring to the Medicaid, Medicare stuff we're talking about? And was there a specific source of or method of opting out? Medicaid is what I meant. Okay, Medicaid. Great question. It sounds like a couple people in this chat actually know about that. And if someone does have a response to that, I would love to know. We'll put it up here on the chat for everyone to see. While we're at it, we'll do a little search. Medicare. Okay, great. So it looks like, yeah, a couple people have questions about this Medicaid, Medicare opting out. And I will, here. So yeah, if people, again, I think some people know more about this particular thing in this group. If you do, leave a comment, or you can leave a comment in the description. That one will stay there a little bit more permanently. That'll be really helpful for all of us. Okay, yes, you heard about it through Facebook group. Usually, that's a pretty good source of information when it comes to the therapist communities. But you said it looks like you did your vetting. There was a .gov link, and of course, a $1,500 for only telehealth practices per year. That's really helpful to know. And I guess so. Yeah, I guess it would have to. Is this for businesses that are established just in New Jersey, or for businesses that are doing business in New Jersey and can be established elsewhere? This is where it gets so gray. There's so many questions that stem from just, this sounds straightforward, pay $1,500, you're a multi-state license, but then what do they actually mean by where you need to be established? All so confusing here. But thank you for giving us that update. That's really helpful. Oh, sorry, I touched the button again. I'm still here. How have you approached adding benefits to your group practice? So as far as benefits, like in terms of insurance and things, there's a lot of legal requirements for that. My practice is mostly it's mostly therapists who also have other jobs. So they're working with me part-time. In that regard, we're not able to really provide health insurance yet or any major benefits. But in terms of other benefits, I really think a lot about providing my therapists with continuing education opportunities, trainings, kind of these things. I have to kind of think outside the box to really provide some of the benefits, right? And then I do think our supervision is something that's beneficial. But I'm always thinking about outside the box stuff. Now, if you do end up growing, there's something called is it PEO? Let me look it up. There's something called a PEO. Now, you have to have a certain amount of employees to do this. An example of a is it PEO? Let me see. It would be something like JustWorks. I don't know if you've heard of JustWorks. It is a PEO. So JustWorks is basically like I don't know exactly how they work, but you would sign up with the PEO, and through that, your small business can offer like really great benefits, health insurance, gym memberships. I looked at that originally. But when I was just starting, I only had two other therapists, and we had no clients, so we weren't able to sign up. You have like a certain requirement to sign up there. And at that point for us, it was just too costly. I might look back into that because I really do want to provide my therapist with the best experience and the best benefits. But it's not always that easy to do it. And yes, you've heard of it. Okay, fantastic. Just check in the email to see if anyone has. Sometimes people email me questions, so just checking that. Excuse me, so sorry. We're caught up there. All right. There's a couple questions coming in, just checking them out real quick. I keep getting emails that I should file a BOI. Is this mandatory, and what are the benefits? Looks like someone actually already answered the question for us, and they said, yes, this is a new requirement starting this year. Some businesses provide this service to do this report, but it seems pretty straightforward. They're saying you want the fincen.gov website. So hopefully that answers the question for you. Thank you so much for answering that. I was just taking a look at that .gov website. I can actually put it here in the chat. When I find out about things like this, I always like to consult an accountant very briefly, just to kind of make sure, I understand everything. But it does look like this new requirement, and you can read about it here, but check with the accountant for full assurance. All right, back to the PEOs. When I looked into PEOs, I discovered that the PEO has a final say in the HR, hiring and firing, and the practice owner loses this right in exchange for getting access to healthcare benefits. Wow, I did not know that. That is really, yeah, I wouldn't do that either. Which PEO did you look into? And when you asked them about this, what did they say? The benefit is not getting fined. Sounds like a great benefit to me. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. That is super, super helpful. Yep, I agree. Thank you. Does that pop up? Yep. The website I put down is in the chat. Oh, my chat disappeared. Where'd you go? Oh, you even you talked to your accountant. That's fantastic. So your accountant said that this fine is up to $500. Fortunately, if your business was formed prior to this year, you have until 1/1/25. This is really great information, and that's why I like to have these live streams here. Real-time answers, real-time responses. Super helpful. Thank you so much. So we'll probably hang out for another 5-10 minutes or so. Happy to answer more questions that come in, chat a little bit more, but probably around 55 after we'll wrap it up. It's been awesome. I really like being able to do these. Hope to do some more. Let's see. And just out of curiosity, if you are watching, if you watch some of my videos on YouTube, is there anything you guys want to see videos on? Is there any topics that you would like to see videos created about or on? I'm always looking for new ideas live from people who are watching. So if you have any suggestions for me, leave them in the comments. I would love to try to make a video that's requested directly by someone who wants it. Oops. Okay. Also, I apologize. I realize when I do these videos, I get so thirsty and I'm always taking sips of my drinks. That must be really annoying. Sorry about that. YouTube video idea. Expanding from solo to group. How do you know it's time and you're financially ready? Great question. Great video topic. I actually have a video kind of like this. I'll leave it down below. Though I didn't talk so much about financially ready, but I will leave. You know what? Actually, let me see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it now. Think about my YouTube videos, they don't pop up right away when I search for things. That's a little bit annoying. Let's see, are you ready? I have one. I'm going to find it for you. I will put it in the link. I'll put it in the description down below. I thought I've made enough videos by now that I thought they would just pop up when I search for something. Wait. Is it here? Is it here? No. Okay, I have a video. I just cannot find it. I will put that in the description. Another video idea. Let's see how you form relationships with other professionals, either for referrals or for consultations. I feel strong in this area, but always looking to hear input from others. Essentially, networking. Yes, great idea. Fantastic topic. I would love to do that. Marketing, branding, and niche tips are always useful. Yes, great. I will continue to make videos about that as well. I have some out there, but I'll put some more out there as well. I think something we can always talk about. It's a great idea. And then you'd have to check out my channel. Please do. Thank you for subscribing. That's really helpful, and that's really awesome. I hope you find the videos here informative and at the very least inspiring. At the very, very least, I hope you feel a little bit more inspired. Let's see. Please feel free to continue to ask questions. I'm just searching my own YouTube channel here to see if I can find some of the videos that I'm mentioning. Let's see. I know I have the playlist. Let's see. Playlists. Where's my group practice? All right, here we go.
This is...
You probably can hear that. All right. Oh, here we go. Let's see. So someone wants to know about how to do email listing as a therapist. Are you talking about like an email, like email marketing? Is that what you're talking about? Here's a link in the comments right now. This is like one of the videos I made about whether or not you're ready to start a group practice. Hopefully that will help you a little bit. Yes. Okay, cool. So a couple of things about this. When I was working with a marketing company, one thing they had shared with me that email marketing for a clinician is not that effective. And you're going to get different opinions about this, but a lot of people are going to kind of have different thoughts about this. But what they shared with me was that you put in more work to make that marketing list than you yield any results from. So they actually dissuaded people, therapists, from doing it. Now I have an email marketing campaign myself, but it's for the kind of consultation stuff that I do. If you're going to do the email marketing for your therapy business, there's a couple things I'm thinking about for you. One is make sure you do it with HIPAA compliance in mind. There's a lot of different, issues that can go on here, right? Collecting client email addresses, having client email addresses getting sent out. You want to be really careful that you do it properly and in a way that's secure and HIPAA compliant. I would definitely contact a healthcare attorney just to be sure you do it right. And then from there, the challenge with a marketing campaign is getting emails to even sign up. And the way you actually get emails to sign up is by offering something for free. They call this a freebie, right? Something like that. So maybe it's and it can't just be like a quote, right? It has to be, people will only really sign up when they receive something that's really worthwhile to them. Maybe it's a free video, maybe it's a free training, maybe it's a free ebook, maybe it's a free pamphlet. I mean, it could be all sorts of things, but if you're going to think about that, then you have to kind of think about what you're going to give away for free. And then the third step is advertising it, right? So maybe you just start networking yourself in different Facebook groups or posting on social media. But that's kind of what you need to do, is kind of get that out there. So my thoughts: consult the attorney, make sure you start it correctly using the right platform, HIPAA compliant, following all the ethical guidelines. 2, think about your freebie. What are you going to give away? And then 3, figure out how you're going to market your freebie, your email marketing. That's a really simple overview, but hopefully that gives you a starting point. Are you familiar with the Profit First system? I am familiar as far as I've heard about it, but I have not actually looked into it or read about it myself. So I can't share too much on that. Sorry about that. Let's see. Don't mind me. I'm actually going to move. You probably can see this moving. I'm going to move the chat down a little bit. It's way too centered for me. All right. All right, we're going to go 4 more minutes. If you've got more questions, please let me know. We got 4 more minutes to answer. Then I'm going to head out, do some more admin work, get ready for the rest of the afternoon. But don't feel like you're limited to just this time. If you have more questions after this, feel free to check out the consultation group, shoot me an email, that kind of thing. Okay. Thank you for the recommendation. I will check that out. I'm always looking for new recommendations, business stuff, and things like that. Thanks so much. It's really awesome. And then I have actually another video. Someone had asked about I just posted a video in the chat. This one's more about marketing and growing and different strategies that are not talked about all that often. Hopefully this one will help you. Here's the comment, but it's yeah, in the chat bar, you should see it. Someone who asked, so that one I posted in the comment, you can see that. And then marketing, branding. Yeah, great. I put that right here. Actually, sorry, that was the video of myself talking about marketing. For those of you still watching, has everything been coming across smooth? Is there any lag or anything like that? Has the stream been okay, consistent, like decent audio, decent video? Just curious. I never get to see it till I can see myself, but I can't actually hear myself in the video. Thank you. All right, everyone. I'm going to consider wrapping up here. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That really does help me out. And yeah, I try to make these videos, these live streams every so often. Thank you so much for joining. It's really a pleasure to be able to share this information, and I get to learn myself too. So thank you to everyone who's been participating today. And then just keep updated on my YouTube channel. That's usually where I post most things. I don't do much on Instagram, but you'll find stuff. You'll find me, letting you know about upcoming live streams if you enjoyed this. And then someone shared this was helpful. I'm gonna go watch your other videos to see what great info I can find. Fantastic. My whole point is just to not gatekeep. Whatever I learn, I want to give to other people as well. This is we need this. So thank you so much. Check out the other videos. Thank you for doing this. So helpful. Thank you for being here. That's also really helpful. Thank you so much for your content. Love the relaxed approach on your channel. Thank you so much. All right, everyone, have an awesome weekend. Really, I feel more motivated after doing the live stream with you guys. Motivated to really kill it in private practice. I hope you feel that way, inspired and ready to really just thrive in your private practice. All right, so it's been awesome. Have a great weekend, a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.